Grand Rising, everybody. I hope that everybody had a great week. Um, just gonna make it a quick episode today. I'm gonna be talking about believing in yourself and your vision. I just wanted to say that it's been a crazy year since I started with my podcast. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I say it every single episode. It's amazing. I am trying to obviously get better, get more listeners from different countries, and going to make a few adjustments. As I said, next month I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel that will be focusing on a few different things, mainly cooking and just how to live more independently in a chaotic city. You know what I'm saying? I think it's super important for people, especially men that are in their late 20s, early 30s, that they should know how to do everything on their own. I think it's a little bit pathetic if you don't. You know what I'm saying? No judgment, though. So, I just wanted to talk about a few things. First of all, we all see now that we are 100% heading into a recession. We see that things are, a little bit shaky with the market and everything is coming to a crash. That's what it seems like. We have to just take it one day at a time. We have to believe in the vision that we make good choices for now so that we could have a more secured and better future ahead. I see so much things going around economically and health wise that is really questionable. We have to really make better decisions. I was talking about this a few weeks ago, and I think that if you have, health, you got the wealth. We really have to take care of ourselves, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. We really need to take care of our health. That's all we got at the end of the day. Money is a tool. Money is a tool that will help you generate freedom. Freedom is literally almost everything, at least to me. Because once you're free, you could literally do almost anything you want. And you got to work towards freedom. We have to have a plan in order to get from point A to point B. And that's something that I'm struggling with right now in my podcast. In this, how am I going to, potentially become the next big thing? How can I become more valuable and be a better host at my podcast? How can I inspire myself to become better so I can inspire people around me? How can I make more money, you know, rather than just working my day job? Something that is not going to guarantee me anything except paying my bills, even if that. We have to really become more cautious of our decisions and our finances. And I think that, people that have a neurological condition and, they're a little bit more upbeat and they're hyper or whatever the case may be for them, that it comes a little bit down to, more challenging because they are restless. And it could be a problem when you're restless because when you're restless, you can't think straight and you don't have the clarity to think. So that's why I also do these podcasts for that reason. I like to talk to myself and see how I sound. Am I confident? Am I, check myself in, make sure that I'm speaking clearly. I don't mumble when I speak, which is great. And that's, one of the reasons why I'm confident in what I'm saying and delivering my message is because I'm able to be approachable and be a good talker, be a host. I may not be the best listener in the world. I may come off as a person who is careless of what the other person is saying, depending on the conversation. But I realize that I'm not careless. Most of the time, I don't have the attention span to listen because I'm just so thought in my own head, which is not good. I need to clear out my brain so I can listen to what the person is saying and we could have a conversation. That's how it works. A conversation is with two people that are having a discussion about something that is more serious and have a either a verdict or something's gonna have to come out of the conversation, right? Because a lot of times people that have ADHD like me are very impulsive and you don't really get anywhere with that person by repeating yourself so many times because that person that has ADHD probably already heard what you said many, many, many times. And that person is having a hard time with stimulation and taking that information and just observing that information, if that makes sense. That's what I've been experiencing my entire life, and that is part of the reason, I guess, why I didn't really want to go to college. It's not that, I don't think I could do well academically. I know I can. I just didn't feel like I wanted to put in all that work to go to college and just sit there and listen to lectures and all that when I could literally do the same thing on YouTube. YouTube is literally a school online, even if it's not the same thing. You go to school to learn, to get an education, to, become like classmates with your peers, but also, so many successful people, almost every successful person dropped out of college and made something happen with their classmates, roommates. And I think that, to me, that is the most fascinating thing you can do is drop out of college and become a millionaire because of your creative ideas and your dedication with working with people and coming up with solutions to everyday problems that's occurring in modern day society, if that makes sense. That's my vision. My vision is to always stick with the plan that has always been intended. My plan is to, and it has been, to quit my job in 2 years and, move somewhere south, somewhere warm, and, do this, do the real estate thing, buy a few businesses and see how it goes from there. It is possible. It may not be realistic right now. It may not be realistic in 5 years, but at the end of the day, I know it's going to happen. I know that right now, I don't have children, and a lot of men, mostly, that come from my community and the people I grew up with, they're already married, they're established with families, and I kind of feel like they don't really have time to explore their true selves. And at the time, until they're like 40 or 50 years old. And then a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be the old dad. Age is just a number at the end of the day. Like, I know that, in age, I may be getting older, but in spirit, I'm still always going to have that young, energetic spirit that I've been born with. You know what I'm saying? And I don't take that for granted. I think that people need to really look at themselves in that way, in a different way, instead of saying, you know, I'm a failure, what can I do to improve? And that's really hard for me because I know there's so many different challenges that I'm going to be facing and later on in life that this is just the beginning of my adulthood. Even though I've been an adult since I was 18, like, you don't know yourself, you don't learn until you're actually being exposure, having exposure, or being in a situation where you have to make good decisions or everything's going to fall downhill. You have to have the ability to navigate through certain situations, and sometimes it can be tricky. And I think that in order for people to navigate, you got to be confident with your decision as well. And sometimes it can be difficult for me to make very difficult decisions based on the situation. Sometimes I may not have all the information. So sometimes it's good to just wait a few minutes, in terms of like an hour, 2 hours, just to think about it and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I think that asking other people is always going to be a red flag, because they're always going to give you a whole different perspective and their opinion, and they have every right to do so if you're asking them. And I think that that's part of the reasons why I have my friends, is so I can work on becoming more independent, which I am working on becoming more independent. We have ChatGPT, we have all these creative AIs, and sometimes you want to know what other people are doing so you can fit in. I guess fitting in is overrated in 2025, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, they say that they fuck with you, or they want to be on your gang, on your team. At the end of the day, 90% of people are frauds, including me. I can be fake sometimes, fake it till you make it. And I think that you have to just look and evaluate yourself. There are so many opportunities that I had, and I ruined it with my impulsivity. I ruined so many beautiful friendships. I almost lost another friendship recently. I think that sometimes you have to know your boundaries and your place, and it can be very difficult if you're in your early 30s and you're always fixing on the future and you're really worried about the future. Whether it's, getting married, not, having that business of your dreams, not having that woman that's going to give you, the children that you want. All these things can make a man, especially somebody who's neurodivergent, somebody who's extremely anxious about the future and they don't feel like they're doing enough. You have to really write down the things that you are doing. And, we live in this fast-paced modern day world, which doesn't help the situation. Right now, I'm entering, the week. It's entering the weekend. It's literally been a week of weirdness. It's been a weird week. The weather has been absolutely horrible. It's almost mid-April, and I'm just waiting to go outside to wear my nice polos and cool, jeans or whatever it may be, depending on the weather. And I can just go take my new bike out and enjoy it. Maybe go get an ice cream, or maybe go to the pier, whatever it may be. I'm waiting for this to happen. I don't want to have this whole weekend and it's going to be raining and I'm going to sit inside, having my Passover with my family inside and just reading, and that's something that I don't, want to do. I really wanted to enjoy the weather and, the vibes. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is at the end of the day. So now I have an opportunity to literally sit inside and to read and to just have the clarity, have some good reading time so I can gain the knowledge that I can about different things so I can improve my life. Like, cryptocurrency, communication, how I could interact better with others, how I could be better in front of women and more desirable, if that makes any sense, in terms of my talk. Because sometimes I just talk to talk and I don't walk to talk, and people don't like that. And I don't try to come off as being annoying or a jerk or cocky. I just wanted to be funny because, a lot of people, they also talk out of their ass. So I just give them the energy that they want. And I end up going on their level instead of not. And I think that A lot of people are not really accepting of others, and they're not really willing to change. I'm one of them too. I think change could be really difficult if you're not really looking at the entire picture. You don't have the full clarity. I think that's really what it is at the end of the day. It's the human psychology of change. Photosynthesis and all that. Mitosis, metamorphosis, they all have certain changes. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. As human beings, we need to evolve. Because I see a lot of youth are literally crashing and burning, including me at one point. And I think that if we could work together, right, during these weird times, we have to have strategies and solutions, because nothing's ever going to get better in terms of change. Like, this is what it is. So we're gonna have to accept the reality of the situation, but we don't have to make it our reality, if that makes sense. We can make it better by taking it one day at a time and making the necessary adjustments in order to live a happy, successful, and flourishing life. If that makes any sense. Everybody that I'm talking to right now, anyone that's listening to this podcast, is on a completely different economic, social bracket. Nobody is going to be the same. So if I ask a certain question about a certain topic, I'm going to get many, many different answers depending on who I'm speaking to. Part of the reason also why I started AB's World is because I actually know my audience. I get to have a certain connection with them. I may not get 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 listeners. I may not get that. I get maybe like 5 to like 65. At the end of the day, I get people texting me all the time about my podcast. They're asking me questions. And I said, look, I'm not going to say anything to you about it. You got to go listen to it yourself. So this is what I like to do. I like to inspire people and inspire myself, because right now people are in need of healing. They need to have a different perspective of life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so glad that I don't have to go to work this whole weekend, because, waking up every day at 2:30 to go to work is mentally exhausting for me, because the commute is literally more tiring than the entire job. I don't know if that makes sense. So my solution is, as soon as it gets nicer outside, I'm planning on taking my bike and see how I could make my adjustments with the commute. That's something that I intended to do in the future. I intend to do in the future. So we have to have solutions to see how we can actually level up. What are we going to do in the future? What are the solutions to that? That really depends on you and what you are currently doing. I was just speaking to a friend of mine, and when I speak to him, I was very inspired and proud that he listened to what I was saying. My friends listen to what I'm saying. I need to do the same. It can be difficult for me to listen to them because I'm always energetic and jumping from one conversation to another, which is probably not ideal as a conversationalist. That's something that I struggle with, and I struggle on taking criticism, because I just have this ideology that if you come from an abusive household, I've always been told from when I was a kid that I can't do this, I can't do that. I had a very, very abusive father that, impacted me in a way where I'm going to have to think differently than most people. I saw the effects that it had on my amazing mom, and I said, that's just not something that I'm going to entertain, you know, when I become a dad. I understand that childhood development is extremely important. And I think that one of the ways that we can address this is to not have a chaotic household and just focus on one kid, y'all. You know what I'm saying? People always be focusing on having like 5, 6 kids. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how people do that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, like, whatever God gives you, of course. At the end of the day, it's like, I don't even know how people handle themselves to have a kid. It's just a different way of life. Once you got a kid, everything is about them. And you got to be experienced. You got to have the patience, and that's not where I'm at right now in my life. And I just realized, I don't know if it's because I'm inexperienced or I haven't been exposed to like that type of lifestyle. It's just interesting that I ended up having this life. I didn't necessarily plan my whole life this way. I had an idea that it would end up this way to a certain extent. And I realized that I'm going to have a much bigger vision in the future, because it was always a goal, I would say, to work for the post office, because I know that it's sort of like a stable job with benefits that I know that will help me in the future. But it's not something that I'm going to do till, let's just say, hypothetically, I'm going to retire at, let's just say 60. That's not something that I plan on doing. I plan on staying there and take advantage of the opportunities that are given to me, including my real estate opportunity, including YouTube, including making a podcast, and seeing, you know, how I could be more hands on in terms of businesses and relationships. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. Of course, I don't have the most glamorous job in the world. You know, I don't make a whole lot of money at the post office. I'm not making $1 million a year. I don't even have a car. But you know what? I'm happy, and I'm happy because I have opportunities to make tons and tons of money with the foundation that I created. And that foundation is the podcast that I'm talking on right now. I'm speaking to my audience. And I also have my real estate license, which I'm able to use in the state of New York. And I can even work with people from different states and have referrals and get my commission and then build with that. And there's so many things that you can do when you have a foundation and you build something for yourself. You created your own legacy with the support system that you have. And I'm grateful for the support system I have. You know, I have 9 people that I could look up to, and an amazing, 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 amazing mother, right? We need to literally recognize and acknowledge gratitude. That's really what the vision is. This is why I keep making these videos. I may not be, like I say, my podcast is not for everybody. It's only for the selected that want to not necessarily improve their life, but understand what it takes. Because sometimes it can be hard for me to practice what I preach. You know, we could all be hypocritical. So many people will go on social media and they claim they're bougie, and they claim that they're living the life of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. We all know that's not true. Everybody has bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, we see, like, even the president of the United States has so many problems on his head right now. And, he's probably working really hard to find solutions to the problems, even if he's the one that created the problems, depending on what it is, what the issues are. Sometimes we get in our own ways, and that's not going to help you build a better life and create the future that you need in order to have the successful life that you intended to have and the results that you want to see. Everything has to be strategized. Everything has to, it's like a wave. You know what I'm saying? It has to go like this. It's like a rhythm and a wave. It has to go with a flow. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. You know, a lot of people have this ridiculous, insane victim mentality. It's not going to get you anywhere. I have a victim mentality too, you know. And I have a victim mentality for many reasons. Yes, excuses are bad. I have a victim mentality because I always felt like, you know, since I was born, since I can remember, nobody, and I mean nobody, understands me. Like, they always question why I do this, why I do that. And I don't like to be questioned, you know what I'm saying? I like to be challenged. Like, I would love to learn how to play a game of chess and understand the entire strategy of the game, you know, and I don't know who's interested in that. And it's difficult for me to find friends that we share a lot of things in common with. You know, I think I have my friends because we all love to network and we all hustle out there. Like, anyone that I'm associated with is not lazy. I don't associate with anybody who's lazy. Everybody that I'm with in my life, they're ambitious, hardworking, dedicated to themselves and their families. Nobody is lazy that I'm associated with. Back to what I was saying about, you know, me being hypocritical and having a victim mentality. It's difficult when people start questioning, you know, me. Like, for an example, I don't weigh my calories every single day. You know, using ADHD is a really bad excuse, especially when we have all these resources out there. The point is, if you don't know how to utilize it and you keep forgetting and you're not really on top of your schedule because you don't have a proper routine, unfortunately, it is an excuse for that moment. It doesn't mean that you're neglecting it, it means that it's not a priority right now. And there's so many things that I need to work on. That's why, you know, I come on here and I am literally saying I'm a mess. Not a mess like a hot mess. You know, maybe that's more of a term for, I guess, a woman. I don't know. But I wouldn't say I'm a hot mess in that capacity. I think that I don't want, you know, I don't have the mental ability to start using a calendar and start writing things down and having, because I have to plan things as they go. I don't even know if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like next month, I'll give you an example, right? I have 5 days off. I already know what I plan to do on my 5 days off. I plan on networking with a friend of mine who I haven't seen in literally years. I plan on riding my bike. I plan on just doing my own thing, focusing on myself, and see if I can make more money doing side hustles on those 5 days, and see, you know, if I could rest and read. That's really, oh, and obviously do my episode. That's really what it is. I think that people like to overcomplicate things. And it's really difficult for people with ADHD to not keep a routine, but to have a schedule. It's really difficult. Things change every single day. Things change. No, I don't live this ordinary life where, you know, I call a friend and they were like, oh, you know, same old. It's never the same old when it comes to me. Things change every single day. It is never the same. I don't walk out of my house and just having that same, you know, oh, let's go at it again today. Of course, I'm going to have that attitude. Let's do it again. But it will not be the same energy, because every day is not going to be glamorous. It's not going to be glitz and glamours. It's not. And I understand that, you know, I'm 30 years old and it's about to get real out there in the world. You know, people are not going to be as accepting. They're not going to be as understanding. And a lot of your goals and your dreams and your ambitions, you're going to, and aspirations, I should say, you're going to have to hold that in and just keep it to yourself. Nobody cares. Everybody is living their own life and racing their own race, if that makes any sense. They're running their own race. And I'm a very, very blunt and controversial guy. I say things that people don't want to hear, or to them it's nonsense, or a whole lot of bullshit talk. And I think that if that's really the case, not that I enjoy doing that, it's a way how I express my words in a different manner, in a different language context where most of society wouldn't even understand why you saying that don't make sense. I think that for me doing that, it would be great if I could use all of that and come on here and have my own talk show one day. You know what I'm saying? And interview a whole bunch of people, that are neurodivergent, and even if they're not, like entrepreneurs and just icons throughout the world that are making an impact in modern day society. I'm not really even just talking about celebrities. I'm just giving you guys an idea of, like, there are literally entrepreneurs that were literally born in a trailer and they made it big. Okay? So I actually believe in the vision. I believe in my vision. Yeah, I believe that I'm going to be extremely wealthy and I'm going to be rich. I believe it. But in order to be rich, you got to be wealthy first. Okay? There's a strategy that goes behind that saying that you got to save more than you spend. And that's something that I lack in. A lot of people, are panicking right now because inflation and wages are not going up, and that's completely understandable. We have to be less impulsive with our money, and we have to take that to consideration and just realize you can't have everything the same second you want it. It's a very demanding world out there. Greedy. People are very greedy. And if people that are greedy, they don't usually get what they want. So we all understand that the strategy is always going to, basically, the strategy that you solve will always pay off, because then you're really able to solve more difficult, complex issues based on even if it's something easy. That's how it starts. Dealing with your own problems by yourself, taking a paper and a pen, and I do that, or not, and analyzing it and see, does this really, really make sense for me to do it this way or that way? Because either you're going to go right or you're going to go left. There's no fork in the road. The fork in the road is an illusion. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I appreciate you guys taking in anything that I say, right, to consideration. If this helps you, please reach out if you want to be a guest on my show, and it would be great to have you guys. I know that this week I'm going to have some people come on. Maybe I'll talk, be a little bit more entertaining and not so serious, you know what I'm saying, with my usual personality. But I think that everybody should just enjoy their weekend and take it in and spend some time with yourself or your significant other or your family or whoever it may be. Enjoy. Peace out.